Hi, everybody. I'm Stormin on Rumac. That's Billy the Greek, Billy George Sakis. Of course, the show is Rumac and the Greek. That makes perfect sense. That's a stuff of genius. And we're here to share with you our passion for sports, all the teams you follow and care about, wherever you're watching, Canada, the United States. We're glad to have you with us. We're here every Wednesday from 4 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time. And we're going to be covering some of the sports you care about in this show, including the NFL. Philip Wilson, longtime journalist in Indianapolis, author of a book about the Colts. We'll talk with him. And Billy and I will be dialoguing about everything, the Maple Leafs. And I know Billy feels I hog his airtime. I just did a good job of doing that for 45 seconds. And now, without further delay, Billy wants his say, and that's fair enough. So, Billy, it's a pleasure to be with you. We're down here at the Bottom Line, our great hosts, great restaurant, 22 Front Street East, if you're around, Front Street West, pardon me, if you're in downtown Toronto, right near all the sports action at the Scotiabank Arena, Rogers Center. So we're glad to be down here. We're thrilled and grateful to the Bottom Line, grateful to our sponsors. We've got some great sponsors, and Billy's going to give them a big shout out of love, as I do as well. So, Billy, go right ahead.
Okay, is it okay if I talk a little bit, man? Can I get a couple words in here? First of all, let me tell you guys that are watching, thanks for tuning in. If you're a first timer, welcome aboard. If you've been around for a bit, stick around, man. I'm gonna do. I don't know what this guy brings to the table, but I'll tell you what I'm gonna do. And I've done this religiously over the better part of the 3 years. First of all, before I tell you what I'm gonna do for you, let me thank some of the people that have been working with me and have kind of given me enormous support in terms of putting this production together. First and foremost, Mr. Bill O'Donnell, Kathy Boughton, and all the good people at COSA, Central Ontario Standardbred Association. We're proud to have you guys on board live at the Bottom Line. Your support means a lot to us, and not only because help me buy a pair of new shoes every now and then, but just to be associated with you guys. You guys are awesome, and you have been from day one. We'll do everything we can to what are we gonna do for our Colts, Norm? What are we gonna do? What can we do? The two of us.
In terms of our love.
No, here, don't talk. Don't interrupt.
No, we give them love. We give them love on the show.
No, what we do is we tell the truth. It's one of the best organizations, best bunch of people harness industry. And not only this, man, we got a new addition to the team, Carpets for Life. My man Nick Borsch out there, big Cowboy fan, me and Borschi. Carpets for Life is on board.
Good man.
And here's what all of you are going to get. Norm, as you know, pay attention, I'm talking. As you know,
I didn't know that.
I'm the most, like when I first started doing this, they told me just be yourself, and I have, and it hasn't been that successful for me. I'm stuck with this guy resuscitating his fledgling career, man. Me and Norm at the Bottom Line with about 17 people here, man. How the mighty have fallen.
Hey, it's
Norm.
pretty noisy. There's more than 17.
Hey, keep it down. I'm live on air. Hey. So here's what I'm gonna do. Jordan, our great producer, is going to tell you exactly what I'm about. I'm going to show you my resume. I can't make a peanut butter sandwich. I'm not the smartest of guys. I don't know how to clean. I don't know how to cook. I don't know how to do much in life. But here's one thing I know how to do. Jordan, show them the resume. You take a look at that, Norm. Can you read? What's your Syracuse master's degree say there?
Wow. In 21-22, the years, Billy was, hopefully you're writing this down, folks. Pay attention. And especially you people watching in Las Vegas. You
just get to the point, man. The numbers.
Okay. So 21-22, 84, 45 and 3. 2021, he was 65, 51 and
Struggled
4.
A little.
2019-20, he was 83. Wow, he had a good year. 83, 39 and 2. A total compilation overall his record over those 3 years. 232, 135 and 9. That is the stuff, Billy George Sakis, of legend. You must have made $2 gazillion billion, Billy.
Look, I'm a do. You can take that down. This is not a hubris-laden portion of the show, man. I want to talk about myself all the time. But here's what I will tell you. I will continue to do that. I will continue to put money in your pockets, and I'll do it for free. Catch me, follow the Greek. Catch me every Sunday morning by about noontime. I put out me and the heavy hitter, put out about 5 picks this year. All the picks are going to be brought to you by Carpets for Life. My man Nick Borsch, we're going to do this each and every Sunday. All you got to do, right? I don't know if the missus, right? Saying, where's the money? Why are the bills not paid? Kind of like what happens to me.
Yeah, just listen to
Why
Billy.
is the hydro? Why is this? If you're having any financial problems, maybe. There's 2 things you should do. Either follow me and let's make some money betting football, or together the 2 of us call me after the show and we'll hit a GA meeting. I don't know, one of the 2, but we got to figure this out. I'm gonna have picks every Sunday, and as you saw, the record speaks for itself. And it's not a record that's a figment of my imagination. Videos have been posted for the 3 years I'm doing this, and like I said, Norm, there's nobody better in the business than that to this point in time. Was it luck? I don't know. Well, when you're picking something for 3 years and you're 100 games over 500, I don't know. Is it luck? They got, you know what? And hold on, I'm talking. So here's the other thing.
You've been talking for 10 minutes.
Keep it down. Here's the other thing. There's a lot of people. There's even here, like, and frankly, like, I'm fired up, man. I'm fired up to be here at the bottom line because I watch some of the shows, the Gooch Live, and there's this place is void of talent. Like, everybody that I've watched at the bottom line, man, pales in comparison to this guy right here. I'm the greatest of all time. I see guys like Goulet. They put me to sleep every day. I watch the Gooch. I turn him out in 5 minutes. That guy's a snooze fest, man. I welcome him to come on this show anytime. Welcome to come on the show anytime. Gooch, you're watching Gooch. Anytime you want to come on the show and hang with me, man, you'll talk a little bit of hockey.
Now he's going to make sure we don't get our chicken wings, Billy, because you insulted him.
And before I forget, one more thing to those of you watching around on Leaf Nation, James Foley in specific, good friend of mine, broadcasting from, I believe, what I believe to be Leafs Nation Live. So for any of you guys watching along that platform, thank you very much. Plan on having all kinds of contests and giveaways. We're giving away Leaf tickets this year, Leaf jerseys. I might even give away a little bit of Norm's cash. I might even donate his pay. Hold on. We got Kerry Goulet live. Let's see.
Oh, the Gooch.
Hold on.
Gooch,
Kerry Goulet, you're live on air, man. You're live on air. Just ran you over. What do you got to say to the Greek? Go ahead. All right, should I put you on speaker? Hold on, man. You want to talk to the people? What do you want to know, Gooch? You're calling me on live on air, man. What do you want?
Tell him. Billy, you got to keep him informed. Tell him what he's saying. Folks, this is live TV.
I don't get
live
internet TV. Like, you know what? You want to come and hang with me? Be live for a little bit, man? God bless you. But what about the chicken wings, man? I'm kind of hungry. I didn't come down here for my good looks, pal.
Yes, you did. You always say that.
All right, Gooch will be joining. Yeah, see you later. Gooch will be joining us live via video in a little while. All right. We'll get a little.
Okay, so we're gonna have a guest talk about the NFL and the Indianapolis Colts. He's written about the Colts, wrote a book about them. Philip Wilson will join us from Indianapolis in the second part of the show after the half-hour mark. And we got a lot to talk about anyways, generic. Obviously, the NFL season kicks off tomorrow. Should be a good one, but you never know. Sometimes good matchups don't work out that way, but you got to like it. Bills, Rams has potential. Who knows? Maybe a Super Bowl preview. Anyway, so we'll talk about the NFL in general and Phil Wilson with an intimate knowledge of the Colts. He knows Mr. Irsay, he knows Peyton Manning quite well, so there's a lot to talk about there. And you know, actually, we're near the 3-year anniversary of when Andrew Luck, right before the season opened, called it a career, August 24th, 2019. And God knows how the Colts will ever recover from that. Anyway, lots to talk about with the NFL. Now we'll talk some Leafs and some Blue Jays. And all right, so Billy, I'll let you. You're the Greek, Billy George at Sakis. What do you want to start off with on the menu tonight, Billy? Today.
I really, you know, at the end of the day, man, like, really, the only thing that interests me is talking about myself, man. And, you know.
Well, we know that. But beside yourself,
how's that here?
at least I'm glad.
Can you tell? Look at the spot there. You know what? I got this bad habit, man. I start doing knots with my hair.
Did you put your moisturizer on?
I start doing knots with my hair, man. Every time I break a pick six ticket at Saratoga, man, you know what's the funny thing? And I can't figure this out, man. How somebody as smart as me, good looking, talented, you know, real visionary, who's good. Man, I don't know, man. Rogers Cable looking for money, man. So that's the issue. I honestly got it. It was Rogers.
They need more money for those Leafs.
How the hell is somebody as smart as me, as talented as me, as vociferous?
Are you sure you didn't leave anything out, Billy?
Right? How can somebody like me be on their fifth mortgage? I owe money, cash money.
Everybody owes money.
I can't. I don't understand, man. I'm 100 games over 500, man, and I'm living in a basement apartment, man. How did this happen to me? You know what? Do as I say, not as I do. I'm going to have some good NFL picks for you, and I'm going to start this on Sunday. Carpets for Life. Do we have Carpets for Life? Jordan? Let's put Carpets for Life on, man. Let's hear what they got to sell. Right there. Look at that. That's straight to my basement.
Oh, wow. That's your
house. Look at that.
Wow. Beautiful. Nick rules. Nick rules. Wow, very nice. And look at the drawing of us, Billy. Isn't that great? That is like Oh, that portrait of you and I.
Okay, man. That was Carpets for Life. We're gonna have more because the owner, the founder of Carpets for Life, is an interesting individual, and you'll see why. He's gonna debut via video next week, and you'll see why. He's got a likeness. I'm not gonna say to who. I'm not gonna spoil it, but he's got a likeness to somebody very famous. A spitting image. And Nick Borshi, Carpets for Life, for industrial, residential, or any kind of needs. Don't sweep it under the rug, Mark. Give the guy a call, eh?
Yeah. No.
All right. We want to talk about. I want to talk about Toronto Maple Leafs off the top. The jersey's hanging in the back. What do Leaf fans got to expect?
Yeah. Well,
because before you do that, hold that.
Yes.
I remember, for those of you that don't know, former voice of the Fan 590, Stormin Norman Numac, grew up with him in the 90s, talented guy, he had his time in the sun, now he's hanging out with me. He used to come on every show and used to tell you about the Toronto Maple Leafs, God's team, Stanley Cup,
That's
this,
true.
that, the other.
That's true.
20 years later.
Well, not Stanley Cup, God's team in the NHL.
20 years later, what's your forecast say? What
and I was right every time. Billy has talked, to his credit, about his NFL record. I am the only one in the country who predicted tough times for the Maple Leafs the last 2 years since I've been with Billy, in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And much to the chagrin of Billy, who predicted otherwise, he had visions of them parading down Bay Street, or at least getting to a final. I was right. I said, coming out of that Canadian division from the COVID era, that they would not find it so easy, even though their division overall was easy. And I said this year that, again, the same thing. I didn't think that their defensive play, defensive work, and their goalkeeping.
Hold on, man. Hold on. Here's what pisses.
Stop. I called it right. I called it right. I called it right.
Who's this?
Holy smokes! This is like
I'm on air. I'm live.
This is like a call-in center.
Stop! I got no money. Stop bothering me. No, I don't need my air ducts clean. Leave me alone for the last time. Right? Where these guys get your number? Air ducts clean, man. Let me clean your air ducts.
Show, Billy. What do you think? How they got your number?
You ever get somebody to call you at your place for your air ducts?
Yeah.
No kidding, man. This guy looks around, walks away. What kind of human being are you?
So now, Billy, I gave you your props about your NFL picks. Now you owe me mine, even.
Here's your props, man.
No. I called the Leaf playoffs accurately. The only one in the country. The only one who said no. And this year with Tampa Bay. Last year with the Habs. I said it's not going to be a piece of cake, and I could see them going out in the first round.
Did I lose a little weight?
Huh?
Did I lose a little weight since the last episode?
Well, no. This is Bill. I must. Here, I want to praise Billy for something else. His six-pack. Okay, Billy, just move your arms. That's not your six-pack.
Nah, man.
So the six-pack is composed of 2 double meat Whoppers with cheese on top,
and 6
in the
wings.
middle 2 Big Macs, and then below that, the six-pack is completed with 2 orders of poutine with extra cheese and gravy. Isn't that right, Billy?
Here's the problem. Here's what you guys don't factor in. Like, I'll listen to all these Leaf fans, and here's the common sentiment. It's always disappointment. You're talking about what you don't.
High expectations, of course.
Forget the expectations, man. This is the greatest collection of Leafs and Leaf talent that you've seen in your lifetime, man. Maybe not your lifetime, but my lifetime. For a lot of us that grew up in the 80s, mid 80s to late 80s, you got an MVP winner on your team. You got 3 of the top players in the league. You had 115 points last year, right? You set franchise records.
Well, there's your disappointment.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. You have an MVP, which means, I don't know if you understand what that means, most valuable player of the league. The Leafs haven't had anything resembling any kind of individual talent since Howie Meeker.
But Billy, Leaf fans are thrilled with that, but they're not thrilled. But in Toronto, it's all about ending the drought. At least, never mind the drought. It's all about getting to a cup final, for God's sake. At least get there, and then you've got a shot, right? Anything can happen in a final with any 2 teams. Doesn't matter the difference.
So then explain.
So that's why Leaf fans have a right to
I believe we got Gooch coming on soon. So you're a pretty tall guy, eh?
Yeah. Sitting down, I'm almost as tall as you. Should I stand up?
Here's what I'm going to tell you.
Why are you standing up?
I don't know. Just need to stretch a little. Here's what I'm going to tell you. There we go, man. There's that creep, man. Look at Jesus Christ, I'm handsome as a handsome. Handsome. Sit down, man. Sit down. Be a good boy. Sit down. Be a good boy. Come on. I'm fired up, right? This is a barn burner, right? Here's Jesus.
I'm always fired. I've been fired up since I was born. Anyway.
So, in other words, what you're trying to say, if I understand correctly, is the regular season for the Toronto Maple Leafs is irrelevant. Nothing good can happen.
No, nothing good has happened.
What are you talking about?
Hang on. Nothing has been good enough to translate, Billy. At the end of the regular season, all the folks from the Leafs.
How many teams won the Cup last year, man? You keep talking about the Leafs like they're the only organization.
Let me think about that. But anyway, well, that's before we get to the
Cup.
Cup.
Man.
Before we get to the
You're talking about. I'm sick and tired of you Toronto guys shitting on the Leafs all the time because they didn't get here. You're a puck bounce away from beating Tampa Bay, which you guys all consider the best team in hockey. Hold on. You gonna let me talk or not? Don't make me get the Gooch in here, because I will if I have to. Gooch, stick around. Let me finish this thought, and we'll bring you right in. Here's the issue. I've heard all you guys, including this Rene Goulet character, live at Fight, whatever he does, right? He does here. The Jesus, the Murphy, man, I don't get my train of thought here. All right.
You were talking about the Leafs.
Here's the issue. I've heard ad nauseum you guys tell me how great Tampa Bay was. Did I not hear that? You guys told me how good Tampa Bay was.
Yeah, we know.
Did you tell me Tampa Bay was a dynasty, one of the greatest clubs in over the course of the last few decades?
Well,
if they beat Colorado, they would have been one of the greatest dynasty clubs of all time. Is that correct?
Okay, so what's your point?
The point is the Leafs in Game 6, other than a Kerfoot high stick. Hold on. Let me finish. Other than a high stick in Game 6 by little Kerfoot there, got aggressive in the corner. Leafs beat Tampa Bay. Yeah, so if Billy, the margin is that close, how can you be so down on a club?
Since when does being close count in sports? Hey, I'm going to give you the classic example. Were the Leafs close with the Montreal Canadiens Stanley Cup finalists a year ago? And how did that translate for Montreal? And how did that work out for Toronto?
You know what? I'm just going to I don't know. I'm going to go outside for a smoke, man. I'm going to go outside for a smoke. I can't handle this. What I'm trying to tell you, Leaf fans, you potato, keep watching, keep complaining, keep putting this club down. First of all, why don't you enjoy?
Instead of enjoying the regular season.
No, instead of being pessimistic, why don't you leave me alone, man? Why don't you value the fact that for once in your sorry history, you have, and this is no joke, pay attention, you have the best player in the world. When's the last time the Leafs had the best player in the world, Norman Mac? Answer me.
Well, they had some pretty good ones.
Answer me. Don't give me this pretty good ones. When was the last time the Toronto Maple Leafs had the best player in the world? What year?
I'll go back to
when? 1920?
Charlie Conacher?
Who then the blue? God bless you, old Conacher there. But you're talking about 1920s, 30s, man. Which makes my point exactly. After 100 years, you pathetic Leaf fans that do nothing but complain your whole life, you have the best player in the world on your team, right? Finally, you have somebody to take pride in.
They're not complaining about Austin Matthews.
You don't understand. You don't understand.
No, I'm saying they are complaining because it's a team sport, and you're judged in hockey, and certainly in the Canadian.
How many times did Ovechkin lose before he won a cup? Is Ovechkin? How many times did Ovechkin lose?
Won a cup since '67.
You're not forecasting what's going to happen this year. I'm going to tell you what's going to happen.
You've been forecasting that for 2 years, and
how many times does Ovechkin bounce in the first round of the playoffs via Sidney Crosby?
It doesn't matter. He's a cup winner now.
All right, but back then, how many people that are akin to how the Leafs were they not asking for Ovechkin? They're calling him, this guy can't win, break up the club.
So why are you giving the Leafs the business for? They're no different than fans in any other city. There's expectations of excellence and a championship.
How many times did Stevie White lose?
Wait a second. You've been telling me about, the Yankee fans are royally pissed off because they're faltering, which they are, blah, blah, blah. Because the Yankee fans are like Maple Leaf fans. They don't give a rat's ass about the regular season. No. They want a championship. No. Do Yankees fans give a crap about the regular season? The answer is no. They care about winning a World Series. Why should Leaf fans be any different?
What I'm trying to tell you is appreciate the fact. No, they don't. They don't. Listen, I'm telling you, they don't. Appreciate the fact you're finally relevant, right? Appreciate the fact you're in with a chance. There's 32 clubs in the league. You're one of about 8-9 clubs that has a possibility of hoisting Lord Stanley at the end of the year. And for those of us that grew up in the 80s and had to watch, God bless them, Danny Daoud, Jim, and all these Peter Innichuk, the Freezer brothers were going to save us in the Innichucks, man. That was the Leaf hockey.
But we had some pretty good teams in the 90s.
Yeah, great teams in the 90s.
Well, under Pat Burns and Pat Quinn, they did.
Let me tell you. First of all, those kind of teams were never. They never considered of homegrown talent, Norm. Right? The Leafs.
Nobody cares about homegrown talent. One of the most, one of the most popular Leafs ever is Boreas Solmi. Was he from Toronto?
He was homegrown. He started his career as the Leafs. Yeah. He was drafted. I'm not talking about homegrown means you're born across the street, Norm. I'm talking about homegrown means you've come up from the Leaf franchise. You grew up in a time in the 90s. Let me tell you, the only guy that was bred here and drafted by the Leafs was Wendell Clark. Other than that, when you're talking about Dougie Gilmour will never go down as a Leaf. He played at 15 other places.
I'm going to tell you something.
Matt Sundin was not a born
Leaf fans don't give a crap where they came from, that Mats came back from the Nordiques or where Dougie. They care that when they played for Toronto, they played their asses off. They wore the crest with pride, and they did some special things. That's all they care about. Do you think that Matt Sundin is still not going to get a standing ovation? He comes back and get some.
You're not listening. Should I talk to myself? Well, Jordan, can you cut this guy off?
Am I right or wrong?
Let me tell you why you're wrong and why you might be right. What I'm telling you is the Leafs in their 120 years sordid history.
Yeah.
At this point in their history, have the greatest collection of homegrown talent Toronto Maple Leaf fans have ever seen. It has yet to translate into victories. I'll tell you why. It has yet to translate into championships. But in terms of a roster, it's something to get excited about. It's something that the Gooch will pipe in. Where's the Gooch? Is he left? Where'd the Gooch go? What's wrong with this guy?
Waiting for his moment.
That guy's ducking me again, man. Bring the wings. Here's what I'm going to tell you, Leaf fans. This is the year. And I'm going to tell you why it's the year.
No. Keep in mind, you've said that for the last 2 years.
Hold on. I'm going to tell you why this is the year. Yeah. All right? Because Dubas is finally going to come to his senses, and you know what he's going to do? The Leafs, you know why they don't win, Norm? I'm going to tell you. I just asked him, Billy, why don't they win?
Go ask Billy. If you can address the goalkeeping for me and tell me as well why they're not going to win. Right. Or why they are.
The Toronto Maple Leafs are a flawed philosophical. How's the hair? A flawed philosophical foundation. The minute Kyle Dubas decided he's going to pay 4 forwards, half the cap money, he put himself by the 8 ball, and he's swimming upstream the whole time. Leafs are trying to balance roster spots from 5 to 20. They're changing it every year, and they can't find the right recipe. So what's going to happen this year? Finally, Kyle's going to realize, because he's going to watch me. He's going to listen to me. I send him a couple emails, doesn't respond, so be it, man. Because if I was the GM of this team, they would have had 2 championships in the last 5 years. I guarantee you that. So? How so? The first thing that I do is that we won, Willie Nylander. I take his $7 million, and you know what I say, Willie? I say, thanks for your time here. I appreciate it. For you Leaf fans that are watching this, I don't know, am I alone? You tell me you watch that guy in the playoffs, right? You watch that guy in the playoffs. Oh,
boy, it's getting serious.
You watch that guy in the playoffs. Can you tell me, anybody that's watched the game of hockey, can you tell me a series where one individual did not make physical contact with any of the opposition for 7 consecutive games? Okay, watch the series. And if you're telling me you can win with a guy like Willie Nylander skating around doing pirouettes, not taking the puck to the net, you know what the difference was between Tampa Bay and Toronto? It was very simple. One club had a kid, forget his name. What's the kid in Tampa Bay, Jordan? The kid in Tampa Bay that scored that goal, took it to the net. They picked him up at the deadline.
Oh, from Ottawa.
One team had Nick Paul, a guy with balls that would die to score, took the puck to the net, right? And the other team had a $7 million guy that did pirouettes behind the net. That's that simple.
Billy.
If you no, Billy. You tell me why the Leafs can't win. Because Tampa Bay had Nick Paul at $1.5 million, and the Leafs had William Nylander at $7 million. One guy at 1.5 was willing to risk his life. The guy at 7 was doing pirouettes around the net, didn't touch nobody. That guy goes. He's got to go. He's got to go.
Right. So how do you replace those goals, even though you don't like him overall as a player? And you're right. But how do you replace those goals that he scored in the regular season? Who's going to make up for that?
Listen, man, it's not about goals. It's not about making
it is. You got to score goals to win games.
Oh, Jesus. You got to. How you were doing? You actually did this professionally. You have a master's degree in broadcasting.
Yes.
Jesus, Murphy, how did you?
The Newhouse School.
The Newhouse School, man. Jesus, Murphy, man. What are they teaching you guys over there? It's not about the goals, Norm. It's about.
Well, you got to replace the goals. If you trade off the goals, right? You got to replace them.
No. Yeah. What you do is you replace a Leaf style hockey that allows you to play in multiple ways. You replace those. You replace those 28 goals with 68 games of grit, 68 games of finishing checks. You replace that $7 million and you get yourself a back-end defenseman that can play either in your top pairing or a top four guy. William Nylander is not needed on the Leafs. He is at best their fourth, fifth, sixth best option.
Well,
you got Matthews, Marner, you got other guys to score goals. William Nylander's not needed on that team. Hey, no.
Yeah.
You want me to prove it to you? Yeah. Before William Nylander held out, I don't want to talk about this all day, man. I want to start sweating. Before William Nylander held out for that contract, the Leafs were one of the best clubs in hockey. Do you know the Leafs record since William Nylander came back after that contract dispute and that holdout? It's close to 500, man. It's not a coincidence. People, when you're in that room,
you were just praising them on they were so close to Tampa Bay,
and the only difference, I'm telling you, and the only difference between those two clubs, as I mentioned, Game 7, man. People talk about Austin not showing up, Marner off the score sheet, but hold on, man. Did Kucherov score a goal? No. Were any of the Tampa Bay, did Stamkos do anything in Game 7? No. I'm going to tell you what happened. One team had a guy watch the game, man. Pay attention, man. Don't have me to tell you. Watch for yourself.
So let's go back. So what was the difference with Toronto and Montreal in Game 7?
Jesus to Murphy. I'm not talking about Toronto.
No,
Montreal.
but it's Game 7, same team, same basic team.
I'm not talking about Toronto, Montreal. What I'm telling you about last year, the Leafs had William Nylander circling the net. There was multiple opportunities in Game 6 and Game 7 to take the puck to the net. Never once did he decide to lay his body on the line. And then you had a kid in Nick Paul take the puck to the net and score a real dirty one. That was the difference in the series. No. So if Tampa Bay is that great, right? How can Toronto, that was an inch away from beating him, be that bad?
Well, but Billy, the Leafs have a history. It's not the first time they're knocked out in the first round. What happened when they lost to Boston? What happened when they lost to Washington? What happened when they lost to Montreal? If it's a one-off, yeah, you can make your point. Maybe Nylander and some other issues, okay? But, Billy, this is a repeated behavior. First round, see ya. And again, you're going to go through every series, Washington, Boston, Montreal? There's got to be a common thread.
And the common thread,
the common thread is not Nylander. Come on. What?
What you don't understand? I'm just getting started. I'll be signing autographs a little later. Oh yeah.
Yeah, you forgot your point.
You take a look at the construction of the Leafs roster. As I told you, it's flawed. It's top heavy with paying your top guys, your top four forwards, that kind of money.
Yeah.
So the issue is they're always strapped against the cap. So the issue is what do you have an excess in terms of talent? You have a little bit of excess in terms of forwards. So you take one of those forwards, the guy that gives limited effort, in my estimation, limited tenacity, is not a kind of guy you can win in the playoffs. You take that guy, right, and his 30 goals, and you send him. I don't give a rat's ass where you send him. And in return, if you can't secure anything in return, then you know what you do? You do a la Kapanen, where you traded Kapanen and you retrieved the first-round pick and you cleared up some cap space. $7 million in cap space is worth more than William Nylander. Plain and simple.
So let me be devil's. Let me be devil's, not New Jersey Devils. Let me be devil's advocate. If Nylander is that, I'll just use my word, not your word. If he's that useless, negative as a playoff performer, so obviously other NHL GMs and scouts know him as well or better than you do. Not a knock. I'm just saying they make their living. They got to look at everything when they're considering trades, whatever, free agent signings. They got to look at all the positive and negatives about any potential candidate to fit into their club. So if he's that much of a negative aspect for the playoffs, why do you think? Well, hang on, it's a fair question. Why do you think some other team is going to give the moon the sun? No. Let me
I understand. The sun, they're not going to give the sun and the moon. Here's what you're going to do. But somebody. Here's what you're going to do, man. Think of it like your closet, man. The Leafs got about 15, 20 dress shoes, man. And they only got about one slippers and they only got one construction boot.
Yeah, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So, in other words, there's other clubs that got like 12 construction boots, all kinds of slippers, and no dress shoes. The Leafs have the ability.
Okay.
So, what I'm trying to tell you is there are other clubs. You look out west that are void of scoring that can use a finesse guy of William Nylander's standards. They can use a guy like that. So you find a team that's void in that kind of way.
But do you think teams like I'll just.
I don't know. You're sticking up for the guy. Somebody out there
No,
must
I'm not
like this
sticking up.
stuff.
I'm just trying to. I want to complete the picture for, and most Leaf fans, I think, would be agreeing. Okay, so do you think, with your negative take on what Nylander doesn't bring in the playoff, do you think, for example, clubs like, I'm just mentioning, for example, do you think a club like Calgary or Edmonton would want someone who doesn't have that playoff grit? Do you think they'd want someone like that on their roster?
Listen,
And would they give up something substantive to get him?
the substantive, the most substantial thing you can get in return for William Nylander, and we're not going to belabor the point, get into a little bit of Matt Murray here. It's just, I can't believe that Leaf fans or anybody in general, because there are a lot of people that support this individual, cannot notice that during the most critical of times, this guy's the softest player that I've ever seen in my 40 years of watching professional sports in any sport. Plain and simple. In 40 years, man. I'm talking.
No, we got to get
Colts
on
guy. Hold the Colts guy. I'm talking.
Phil Wilson coming up short.
Bill Wilson coming up.
Phil.
Bill, hold on. Bill, what's his name? Phil. Phil, hold on. I got the jersey. I found it from home just to honor you. Here's what I'm going to tell you. I don't know if you know about hockey, but you're going to be on board.
He's a Red Wings fan.
You're a Red Wings fan. Yeah. Here's the issue. In my 40 years of watching professional sports, I have not ever endured watching a player in any sport as soft as William Nylander.
No.
And those kind of guys cannot be staples in terms of winning a championship. Okay. They got to be delivered elsewhere.
All right.
Phil, are you there?
Phil Wilson is coming up in a moment. You'll see him. There he is. Phil Wilson, long time, quarter century covering the NFL and the Indianapolis Colts. He's written a book about the Colts, 100 Things You Should Know and Do Before You Die if you're a Colts fan. And God forbid, Phil, anybody should pass away. But Phil, hey, thanks for joining Billy and I. We really appreciate it. Phil, you know, it's kind of ironic. I know you know Mr. Irsay, the owner of the Colts. You know Peyton Manning. It is kind of ironic that we're just past the third anniversary, August 24th, you know, like the back of your hand, 2019, when Mr. Luck decided to call it a career. Well, I don't think I'm over-exaggerating here, Phil Wilson. I mean, if you think about the problems for the Colts long-term, A, they didn't take the chance on Peyton Manning. He won the Super Bowl, even with his neck surgery. And then they were hoping to have Andrew Luck as their next 10-year quarterback. Does Mr. Irsay and Colts fans, do they sleep at night with all that's gone on the last couple of years, Phil?
Well, first of all, thank you for the
Oh, sorry, we're just
Peyton
we
Manning.
can't hear you, Phil. I don't know if you've got your volume up on your. Oh, sorry.
Can you hear me now?
Let's see. Okay,
can you hear me
hang
now?
on, Phil. We got this straightened out. We'll get this straightened out. Give us 1 sec. Phil Wilson is joining us. He's covered the Colts.
We'll get it sorted out, Phil. Hang in there.
Okay. Phil, go ahead. Can you
hear me now? Hello.
Okay. All right. Sorry. Oh, now I can hear you. Thanks, Phil. Sorry about that.
Yeah, okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Go ahead. So anyway, your take on what's been devastating overall, and it must be for Colts fans as well, for sure.
I want to make sure I know the name here of this fine gentleman who decided to wear a Peyton Manning jersey. And
Billy Georgitsakis, the Greek.
Well, and I don't know this Nylander, whatever guy's name. I don't know who the hell that is.
He's terrible. You don't want any. Just terrible.
You know, Norm can tell you I'm a diehard Red Wing fan, but we haven't been in the playoffs in so long that I don't feel like I have a right to talk about hockey. I was a Red Wing fan as a kid when they were bad, and then when they're the Dead Things and Dead Wings, and then they got great, and the Russian Five, and they won those things, and that great unrivaled documentary just came out on the Lanch and the Wings. I mean, I felt like I was in heaven for hockey then, and now I'm back where I was in my childhood.
All right.
We were awful. So, but I do know hockey a little bit. I got jerseys over here in my man cave. So,
okay, cool. Now, as far as Luck and Matt and everything, what's it like for a Colts fan? And you look at how devastating those decisions have been.
All right, here's the thing. It's an easy answer, and I'm sorry that I put off the answer, but I wanted to give hockey props because I love hockey.
Yep.
My wife has never been the same Colts fan since they ruined Andrew. She knows I had genuine affection for Andrew Luck. I really liked him, and I thought the Colts ruined him. I thought they spit him out inside of 7 years, 5.5 healthy. They didn't protect him. And so I think a lot of Colts fans either A, were turned off by how they wasted a generational talent, or B, he quit in preseason, toward the end of preseason, and that made people boo and hated him for the timing of it. But it's been tough to deal with. Of course, I know franchises out there that would say we never had a Peyton Manning, we never won a Super Bowl. Uh, I remember my buddy John McClain of the Houston Chronicle. I think
He
he
covers the
walked up.
Texans.
Yeah, he just retired, and we were in Lucas Oil Stadium in December of 2011, I think it was. And he walked up to me because he's known Andrew and his father Oliver since he was growing up. And he said, you don't deserve this guy. You don't deserve him. And I said, I know we don't. I know. We had Peyton. We don't deserve Andrew after having Peyton. But guess what? We got him, and
How
then
about the other one?
they wasted him. So to answer your question, there are some people like my wife who will never forgive them and will never be the fans they once were, because you hate to see a great talent wasted. I mean, this guy had the heart of a warrior and played his heart out. He was the first guy to tackle guys who ever intercepted him. He hated to slide. He took on people. He ran through the door and did everything he could to win. And all he ever cared about was not letting his teammates down. Uh, Devoid of the big egos that you see so many pro athletes have. And in the end, he says, "You know what? I don't want to live in chronic pain. I'm walking away." And people will be forever angry at him for that. But in our household, we hold him in high regard. And yeah, it's been crazy trying to deal with the quarterback situation since then. No question.
Before we get into Phil, before we get into the quarterback situation in Indianapolis and the NFL in general, why do you think it is that a guy that like Barry Sanders kind of retired similar, not necessarily out of health, but similar fashion prior to the expiration date, which is rare for professional athletes. Like, you want to hang on for as long as you can. So any guy that gets out ahead of time is always an interesting case study. Why do you think Barry Sanders catches less flack than Andrew Luck did for his
Yeah, that's a good
decision?
question because, even going before my time, did Jim Brown want to be a movie star? I mean, Jim Brown retired when he was 30, and he was like he owned the league. He was the monster of the league back then, right?
Yep.
And he quit early. Barry Sanders, I thought, and he never said it. I don't think. Maybe he did. I don't remember. I got the feeling that Barry thought the franchise was going nowhere, and he was tired of putting everything out there and giving his heart and soul for a team that couldn't win. Now, I don't think he ever said that, but when you watch these old clips of Barry juking a guy and the defender coming up with nothing, not coming up with air and not being able to touch him. Somebody put that on Twitter here last week or so. A minute clip of Barry Sanders leaving people in the dust, that I started giggling watching some of the plays. He was so special, and you think, well, how do you question a guy like that in his heart? How do you question his want to play or his willingness or his desire? He's so talented, but I always thought he just got tired of losing and felt like he put everything out there as long as he could for a team that was going nowhere. And maybe I'm talking out my butt. I don't know, but it wasn't Andrew's case. Andrew's case is chronic pain. He had another injury, and he was worried that he's going to be in chronic pain the rest of his life. You start thinking about all the players that the league has spit out over the years. Let's go back in the Rolodex again. How many knee surgeries did Jim Otto have? How many guys had swollen appendages? Legs mostly, but from surgeries. I know some guys who play for the Colts that were supposed to be having routine procedures, and then they didn't come back like they were supposed to. It's supposed to be a scope, or just clean it out, loose items, and all that. And now their knee's not the same, and they never are the same again. So I'm not trying to cut Andrew too much slack, but chronic pain's one thing. Barry Sanders, maybe he just got tired of losing. Jim Brown wanted to be a movie star. I guess people, different generations, have different reasons to walk away. But you and I are the three of us were fans, of our sports, whether it's football or hockey or whatever. I played street hockey as a kid growing up. I thought Steve Eiserman was the greatest,
Philip, let
greatest.
me ask you something. Do you gamble football? Do
What's
you bet
that?
on football?
I have only bet on one game, and it was last year in Vegas. I decided to bet on an NFL game because I'd never done it before, and I took the Rams to beat the Colts in Indianapolis. The Rams were giving 3.5 points. It was the first time I ever bet. I bet $50 on it, and of course the Rams only won by 3, so I lost the bet by half point. Vegas gets my $50, but I'm going back in at the end of October and Halloween. I'm gonna bet the Colts are playing the Commanders that week, and a Carson Wentz rematch. I'm gonna take the Colts to cover no matter what the spread is.
Just in case, hold on, Norm, 1 second. Hold on. Just in case you're curious, right? And I'm a very modest individual, but I'm also honest at the same point in time. Over the last 3 years, picking NFL games, I'm 102 games over 500 picking NFL games. So if in fact you want to wager a little bit, this, that, the other, now that we're buddies, now that we've been on together, I can give you my information. If you're ever curious, shoot me a text and I'll give you anything you like on the house. How's that sound?
I appreciate that. I picked it about a give or take 56 to 58% margin against the spread. It's so much harder than people realize, and if you're really good at it, like you say you are, and I have no doubt of that, then you can make some good money. It's just funny that I was an NFL writer for over 2 decades, and I never bet on an NFL game until last year, and then I lose the damn thing. I don't care about the $50. That's a bad 20 minutes of the slot machine. That didn't even qualify as a wager, but I wanted to do it to say I did it. But to lose by a half point when the Rams were in position to score a touchdown late and they kick a field goal to win it, I'm like, well, that's kind of salty.
Welcome to the sordid story. You got a taste of the sordid story of degenerate gamblers that have been pulling their hair out for 30 years. Speaking of pulling their hair out, we're going to get Norm in here. So obviously, want to get into the book you wrote. I'm very curious what chapter Arch Leister's in, but I'm going to let that go for a little bit. Here's what I want to ask you: you're in Indianapolis. You cover the Colts. Now, put me in a Colts fan's minds now. And especially from the beginning of the year, you got a franchise that has absolutely zero chance to win a championship. How do Colts fans reckon with this reality?
Well, we're in a very conservative state that believes anything's possible. I'm not saying that's my political persuasion. I grew up in Ohio. I'm a Buckeye, so they took care of business against the Irish, even though they didn't cover the 17.5 points. But they won by 11 and they dropped the poll. So hey, go Bucks anyway. But they think that Matt Ryan gives them a chance to contend for the Super Bowl. Now I know you're going to laugh at that. I see a problem for that scenario because even though the AFC South looks pretty darn easy to win, I think Tennessee's not as good as it was. You subtract A.J. Brown, you bring in a Robert Woods coming off a leg injury. That doesn't make me think they're better. And Houston and, Jacksonville, come on. So maybe you win the division. But in my mind, when you're going to ask me about the NFL, I always think about the AFC West. When I look at how the AFC West teams geared up this year and how they upgraded across the board, not just the Raiders. The Chargers added Khalil Mack. Oh yeah, right, I forgot. If Mack can play half as good as he used to be, that makes that defense better. Denver adds Russell Wilson. Oh, that's Denver. Denver sucked for a while. Yeah, but Denver was competitive without a quarterback for the last I don't know how many years. Russell Wilson's still a gamer. So, and the Chargers and Justin Herbert, as somebody told me a long time ago, if you've got a great quarterback, you got a chance. Back to your question, Matt Ryan, I think, has got some life left. I don't think they're kicking the tires too hard, but I think he can help them win and they can get to the playoffs like they should have last year. But I think it's probably over the top delusional to think they can run the gauntlet and get by Buffalo and/or the AFC West winner and get to the Super Bowl. So fans here are optimistic, and never know what can happen. And all that, but I'm more realistic. I covered the team for over 20 years in the glory years. I was there for the Super Bowl they won. I was there for the Super Bowl they lost that they should have won, and they were favored by a bunch against the Saints. So I know what it takes to get there and to win. And I don't think this team, while improved, I don't think this team has it, no matter how optimistic my conservative brethren in the state might be.
Okay, Phil, let me take advantage of the fact that you know Peyton Manning. You've spoken to him a bunch of times. You know him quite well. You know Mr. Irsay. Uh, does Peyton look back? And you told me about some of the surgeries. Not the players, but the surgeries. Colts players thought they'd be better and it didn't quite work out. Does Peyton or people who know Peyton, is there any reference to any kind of, I mean, in a serious sense, sarcasm? Oh, it's like, so the doctors didn't think I was good enough. And then I go out and win a Super Bowl. They go, oh, that neck surgery was too risky. I'm sure Colts fans must be royally pissed. I mean, Peyton, he's like their adopted son. He probably still is. I'm sure he still has a great relationship with the fans there. I don't know if he does with the organization. Is there any bitterness? I mean, Peyton won a Super Bowl, so he's obviously not going to be bitter about that. But is there any bitterness about, boy, what a kind of a horse bleep decision you guys made? I could have finished my career there. Has there ever been anything like that, quietly or otherwise, from Peyton?
I've never talked to Peyton about that. The one time I talked to him after he left was when he came back and they retired his jersey, or they had a ceremony after he retired from the Broncos. And I got a moment with him and a handshake, and congratulated him on winning the second ring. But I do know that when he went to Denver, he wanted to prove that he could still play. He wanted to prove that he still had something left. I know it. He was bitterly upset. He understood the rule of football. He understood how it went, but I think he's bitterly upset that he couldn't stay. He stayed on good terms with Mr. Irsay, and he's done things for the Colts to help Mr. Irsay out. I think he helped talk Matt Ryan into coming here or agreeing to the trade. As I understand, Matt Ryan talked to him. So Peyton has not been bitter toward the Mr. Irsay or the team too much, but at the time, I think he didn't like the idea that somebody told him, or at least the medical wisdom was, you're not going to come back from this spinal stenosis that you might have in your neck. Your brother Cooper never played football because of it, and it's hereditary, and it's only going to get worse, and blah blah blah. And you can go across to Europe to get stem cells and do whatever you want, but you're not going to be able to beat this. And you know what? He did kind of beat it, because he did play 4 years or 3 years in Denver. He did win a ring. You can make the argument he wasn't. He was a shell of himself the last year. But after all the years of him carrying football teams, I had no problem with him winning a ring where the defense did more than its share and made it easier. And he still proved he was one of the best team managers ever. So to answer your question, I'm sure it meant a lot to him to prove he still had something left in the tank. But I think he understood from a football sense they had a chance to get another generational talent in Andrew Luck. And of course, the fact that didn't last like it should have, you'll always have fans in this city who say, well, they screwed up. They never should have let Peyton go. They never should have got Andrew, because look what happened with Andrew. And it backfired on him, and people always say it's the wrong decision. I thought it was the right decision. I remember I went on Dan Patrick in that off season before that decision was made. And I tried to tell Dan, I said, I wish in the beginning I thought there might be a way they could peacefully coexist, and have Andrew back up Peyton for a year just to learn from him. And Dan was like, you can't do that. You just can't. And most people were saying you can't do that. You need to have the guy play. And then, of course, Andrew, people forget his rookie year. He set them on fire. They went from 5-11 to 11-5. He led them to 7 comeback wins, and got him to the playoffs his rookie year, and he was phenomenal. He was a much better rookie than RG3, but we won't get into why rookie of the year honors went to somebody else. And Andrew was still a great talent, and I understand it, but and Peyton's known Andrew since Andrew was a counselor at Peyton's little passing academy down south. So the families know each other to boot. Go all the way back to Oliver Luck knowing Archie Manning back in the day. So there wasn't any bitterness there. I just think it was a matter of, to answer your question, Peyton wanted to prove he could still do it because if there's one thing in the world in sports that athletes can't handle, it's you can't do this. You're done, or nobody believes you anymore. That's motivation to try and prove them wrong.
I thought you were talking
Great
about
answer.
Norm again. That's what they tell Norm every day, man. And he still comes out here. Let me ask you before Norm gets in there. Quick question on the Colts, and then we'll move to the Bills. And although I pulled out this jersey, knowing that you'd come out today, I figured, what the hell, I got it had it in storage, so I dug it out. I'm a Cowboy fan, long time. Like to get your take on the Cowboys, which I consider very similar to the Colts, playing in a weak division, much like the Colts. Maybe there's a map for the Cowboys to get in the playoff picture. But before we get there, Matty Ryan is not the most agile of individuals. I watch him with Atlanta last year. He's got he's got cement in his legs. Like I can't move around. But if you give the guy a clean pocket, he can still sling it. Can the Colts give him a clean pocket? Can they give him time? And how are they in terms of their offensive line? Can you give time for this guy to get the ball off?
Well, four-fifths of the line is solid. 4/5 of the line is as good as you could ask for. The problem is your left tackle is a journeyman fill-in guy, and so that means, as you guys probably know, that you're either having a tight end on that side or a running back to help chip block whoever's rushing from that end. But Frank Reich's offense is, I know this, even though I haven't covered the team in a couple of years. I've written magazine stories and followed it, and I'm still on their email list. So I read the transcripts, I see what's said after games and all that. Frank Reich's offense is still a precision timing type offense. When he's not running the ball, he wants the ball out quick. And the problem is Carson Wentz didn't do that. Carson Wentz tried to freewheel it and play street ball all the time and just wing it and run around and try and find what he could. For all reports in camp and even since then, excuse me, I've heard that Ryan gets rid of the ball quickly, and that's what Frank wants. So that doesn't say much for throwing the ball down the field, but I think this is more of a precision, quick hit. Don't have Matt sit back there forever, and that's probably a good thing because at his age, I don't know how many hits he's got left, but they think he's an upgrade on Wentz because Ryan is a veteran. He'll make quick decisions. They see him more like Phillip Rivers, who had a good year here. And Phillip Rivers, hell, they pushed Buffalo to the limit.
To the limit, it was quite a game. It was quite a game. So we got about 5. Jordan, what time do we got? 8 minutes. We got 8 minutes. Make it 13. We got a big guest. This is a pretty important guy over here. We're gonna extend the time a little bit before Norm gets in here because I know he likes to talk a lot. I don't know how far you and Rumac go, but if I let him ask a question, he's going to take 7 minutes.
No, Norm and I go a long way back.
Yeah. All right, hold on. Take it easy, man. Let me get in here, man. Let me get to know Phil.
All right, I'm next.
Maybe when I bother him for a text and a guest, man, those could kind of have a soft spot for me. So, okay, let's take it to the NFC East. Are the Dallas Cowboys still the favorites to come out of that division? And if you're a Cowboy fan, right? Kind of like myself here. Do you got any hope that this Dallas team can hoist the Lombardi Trophy? Any hope? Does Dallas have a better chance than Indianapolis to win a championship?
No, that's a tough question. That's a real tough question because I know there's some talent there. Dallas has got talent. I mean, I'm being a Buckeye. I still believe Ezekiel Elliott's a great talent. I don't know what's going on with him and the other running back they seem to want to use all the time. Pollard, is that his name? Yeah. I mean, hey, it takes two in my business. In my mind, you need two good ones probably to get through a season because of the rigors. Your line was banged up a little bit, right, last year? I don't know if it's totally healthy yet.
Tyron Smith can't stay healthy, which is obviously when you're talking about the Cowboys, he's arguably the MVP of that club, right? If that guy can't stay healthy, there's a domino effect, right? Your guy, then you got to start moving guys, and then before you know it, and you know what that creates. Watching football, then the quarterback's got to compensate for things. You got to rush things. You got to try to make things happen, right? Sometimes the quarterback, and this is some of the greats have acquired this gift, and I'll get your take on this. This is the one thing that I saw last year in Josh Allen. We'll get to a little bit of Buffalo. Some of the best moves a quarterback can make is the ability to throw the ball 20 feet into the stands and not trade it, not to change the world on every play. You mentioned earlier Carson Wentz. He was one of those guys, right?
Yep.
So in a roundabout way, coming full circle for the people that watch the Buffalo Bills up here north of the border, is Buffalo the favorite in your estimation? And is Josh Allen ready and mature enough to take that next step where he operates an offense and he's smart enough and wise enough and mature enough now to throw that ball away and not to try to change the world on every play?
No question in my mind. No doubt. In fact, if if Buffalo gets the ball on that coin toss, I think they're playing the Bengals for the Super Bowl bid. But the fact that Kansas City won the toss and nobody was playing defense at that point, Mahomes couldn't be stopped, Allen couldn't be stopped. I've seen Josh Allen up close, obviously, and he's the real deal now. I think he can run the ball, and if it's not there, and take his lumps and live for another play. He's learned the hard way. You see his progression from early in his career. Well, not that been around that long, but you see how much improvement he's made in a short time. And I like everything I see about him. And I thought that game at Kansas City, I mean, I had no dog in the fight, but it made me hate the NFL's tie breaking. It made me hate the procedure. Made me hate
Yeah,
everything about it.
a lot of people in Buffalo, you know what they hated too? Sorry to interrupt you, but they hated
Yeah,
the McDermott in the last 13 seconds, man. How you
yeah.
give up 4 first downs and 60 yards
Well,
in 13
yeah,
seconds, man. I don't know.
yeah. That's
Maybe
true.
the two of us would run that club, right? And we'd sprint hit the ball, take 6 seconds off the clock, and get a company.
I couldn't believe they didn't
angry at McDermott.
I couldn't believe they didn't squib it. That's right. I do remember that. I thought the same thing. There are things you think instinctively when you're watching a game, even at home.
Yeah.
Hell, when we were in the press box, we always thought it. We'd say it out loud. What the hell's he doing? But yeah, I remember thinking at home, you got to squib that. You can take 4 or 5 seconds off, even if he kneels on it or falls on it. But yeah, they had it. They had it. There's no excuse there. But that's the thing. You can't put that on Josh Allen. I mean, Josh did everything humanly possible to win that game, and I thought he won the game for them. And then they pissed it away, if I can say that. So you asked me about Josh Allen. I think I think Josh Allen makes the Bills the favorites in the AFC.
Really?
I don't know if the Rams are going to repeat. People that say that they're a definite lock to repeat need to be reminded that they were trailing the Bengals in the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl. So in my mind, they weren't dominant. They just outlasted, made a play at the end to beat the Bengals, and the Bengals were the upstart, inspiring Joe Burrow. I'm gonna whack-a-mole Joe Burrow into the ground, as much as possible, and he's gonna still survive it. And he kept throwing darts even though he was getting killed. Probably one of the more inspiring efforts I've seen from a guy. And I'm not just saying that because he's from Ohio, was an Ohio State transfer with LSU. But the Bengals, I don't know if they can repeat. Again, I think the AFC West is pretty darn tough. They'll push the Bills. And the NFC, you got the Rams, and I think you got the Eagles. The Cowboys are in that mix, maybe. You look at the teams in the NFC, and I'm not quite sure who else jumps out at me. I tried to do a little phone scanning while I was driving home before I got on with you guys. I'm trying to, because I knew you were a Cowboys fan. I didn't want to be totally ignorant. And I'm thinking, does Dak Prescott have it? I think he does. I know they make a big deal out of whether Dak's good enough or not and all that. I think it's the parts around him and whether the defense is good enough, the pass rush is good enough, whether the linebackers are good enough. I know they got that great corner who's hit or miss. He's either going to pick the ball off or get burned on a double move, but he's off the Diggs guy. He's pretty darn good. And young players usually learn and get better. So I don't know. It's a good question. I think the NFC is probably a little more wide open for an upstart, but the AFC, I think it definitely, you can write it down right now. It's the Bills or the AFC West right now. I can tell you that right now.
Wait. Let me get a question. I've got a 20-minute break. So, Phil, let me ask you this: a 25-minute. That was. I haven't heard a president. I haven't heard a presidential.
If you heard Phil,
no, come on. No, not again.
Every time I said something, you know what Philip said?
I know.
He's written books, this guy. He's a smart guy.
I know, Billy. Let me kiss your toes. Let me kiss your toes right now.
That's okay. The book was 9 years ago. It's all right. The book was 9 years ago. We don't have to talk about the book. That's okay.
All right. So Billy, I'll lick your boots later. Okay. First, let me ask you. You know Tom Brady. You've spoken to him multiple times. Is it beyond the realm, considering he's Tom Brady with Tampa Bay? He talked about some of the heavier favorites in the NFC. Has Brady possibly got one more rabbit out of the hat miracle? No. He can. Let me ask Philip. Phil, I'm asking. I know. Never mind.
No.
Phil,
next question.
No, not next question. Philip Wilson.
No.
Does Mr. Brady have a miracle? What do you think he can do in this comeback, if you want to call it that?
Unexpected. No, I should have included the Bucks in that short list.
Thank you.
I know you don't want to hear that.
Thank you.
But you just can't count out the GOAT. You can't count him out. I mean, he can still sling it. I don't understand why Tom would want to sling it when he's got Giselle at home. I'm still racking my brain why he wouldn't want to spend more time with a woman who made more money than him in his career, in her career. Every picture I see of Giselle, I'm like, man, Tom Brady has that for a wife. And he wants to go out and sniff jockstraps.
Get by men. He wants to go get tackled by men.
Yeah, I want to go out and get tackled. I don't get it.
But Phil,
I'll tell you this. I've never seen a prettier deep ball in my life. I've never seen a guy make it so effortless. And again, it's an Ohio State guy saying something nice about a Michigan guy that nobody frickin' knew when he came out of Michigan, all right? They thought Brian Greasy was his equal back in Michigan. That's how much Tom Brady was coveted coming out of Michigan. And he's been incredible. So to say he's done or washed up or doesn't have it anymore, can't do that. You can't do it until he's finally dead and he stays dead, so to speak.
Philip, if you wrote your
great
next
answer
book,
to a good question.
If you wrote your next book and it was the luckiest man in the world, in the history of the universe, it would be Tom Brady's picture on that cover of the book. Honestly, that 6 round, like his story, when you think about it, right, is truly, from all the breaks, the talks, the this, Giselle, you name it, that guy's living. I don't know, man. He's a obviously talented, but he's a blessed individual. And then another blessed individual over here is Norm. I know he's
Norm. Yeah, you remember who Tom's lady was? You remember who Tom's lady was before, right?
Actually, you can refresh us on that.
It was Bridget Moynihan, the actress, who's on the Blue Bloods. Right, yeah, and she was married or dating some Hollywood guy, and they asked him about it. He says, "Yeah, it's a classic story. I lost the girl to the quarterback." You know, I mean, he's Hollywood. And he loses her to, and then until Tom went, and he went from Bridget to Giselle, and it's like, okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm officially, and we're not allowed to envy that guy here in Indianapolis. We're supposed to hate him. But
Phil,
as a cold-blooded man, how can you not just shake your head and say, no, I just look at a picture of Giselle, I dare you, and then ask yourself, how? How can you not admire it?
So, Phil, let me throw in a quick bonus question. It's just like, I think it's interesting. Okay, Jim Brown was considered for the longest time the greatest NFL player ever for obvious reasons. Now, if we throw, it's a fantasy type question, you throw Brady, Brown, different positions, different generations. But if you're picking the greatest NFL player and it comes down to Brown versus Tom Brady, is it flip a coin? They're both.
You still there?
Yeah.
Okay. There was a pause there, like for dramatic effect. Maybe that your producer did that for dramatic effect. The old timers want me to say Brown, but I'd have to say Brady because of his longevity and how many times he's won. And it's a team game. No, that's not the way the question was phrased, damn it. I don't want to hear about team game. You asked me about one guy against another. And if you look at how long the guy played and how many times he's won, hell, I saw him lose a Super Bowl here down the street from me. I covered that game too when they lost to the Giants and Eli. Tom Brady has been an institution more than any quarterback or any other player in the NFL that I can ever remember. And again, this is a guy who's been, for most part, in Indy most of his life, and Tom Brady's hated here. He's hated like no other, but I can't argue. I couldn't defend I couldn't defend Jim Brown against the Tom Brady argument. I couldn't do it.
So let me ask you something. Will you come back on again?
Absolutely. I'm semi-retired, so I work a little bit as a stringer for AP. I haven't covered a Colts game in two preseasons ago. They used me, so I've been out of the loop a little bit. But
Do you want?
I still have stories. I have stories to tell, and I can. Norm always had me on because he never knew where I was going to go, but it was always fun and interesting, and I always appreciated it. It fed my fading ego, like maybe Phil B still had some juice. He had some sauce still, and I didn't talk about the Red Wings too much. So I was a kind man this time.
Yeah, well, you know what you're talking about. That's why I love having you on.
Thank you.
Will you be on time next time?
Well, I didn't. I thought I'd hear before the 4 o'clock. It was like a 5-minute warning, and I had to go pick up my brother-in-law. My wife is my boss, and when my wife has me do something, I'm like, yes, dear. And then I'm driving down the road, and the phone lights up, and I'm like, oh no.
Hey Phil, there was a football movie called The 2-Minute Warning that was like allegedly. You remember that from like the 1976, The 2-Minute Warning?
Yes, and I've watched most football movies. In fact, I just watched one called The Number One with Charlton Heston in '69. And I'm just, you're streaming through all these old movies.
I think Heston was in The 2-Minute Warning.
He was in that movie, and then there was the other one, Black Sunday with Robert Shaw.
Right now. No, we're live on there. You got to wait a little now. I would. This is Phil from Indianapolis. Please don't interrupt. The show's coming to an end. Phil,
hang on.
Hold on, Phil. We're pressed for time. My producer's in my ear. He wanted to leave about 10 minutes ago. I love you to death. It was a pleasure having you on.
And let's plug the book one more time.
Plug the book. What is it? 1,000,001?
No, 100 things you should know and do before you die if you're a Colts fan.
Yeah. 100 things Colts fans should know and do before they die. Came out in 2013, but I still get a couple $100 royalty checks every year, so they must sell a few copies every now and then.
What number is buying the Arch Leaser jersey? 58, 59, 60?
What's that now?
You said 100 things to do. What number is buying the Arch Leaser jersey on the list?
You know what? I don't think that made the cut. It was just it was left on the editing room floor. As an embarrassed former Buckeye, I think I might have mentioned it. His name gets mentioned because the Colts were so bad when they came to Indy in the beginning. I had to mention how it took them 5 years before they did anything. They were awful,
Yeah.
Hey, Phil, thank you for joining Billy and I. We really appreciate it. And we'd sincerely love to have you back on. You know your stuff. You got great stories. You're a great storyteller. Sure. And most importantly, you're a good guy. You're a nice guy, Phil Wilson.
Well, thank you. So I appreciate it. I'll be happy to come on, and I'll make sure I'll be ready by 4 o'clock next time.
Before I let you go, are you related to Ralph Wilson?
No.
No relation cash. So there's none of the Wilson family cash going on in your residence?
I probably wouldn't be hanging out on podcasts if I had Ralph Wilson coming, I'd probably be on a yacht somewhere. You see me sipping a drink going, hell, boys, the weather is wonderful and warm out here. Boat drinks to you. Cheers.
All right. Well,
Phil Wilson, it was a pleasure.
Phil, thank you. You're a good man. We appreciate it very much. Thank you. God bless.
Cheers to both of you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. All right. Phil Wilson.
Let me ask you a question. Yeah. Next time, are you going to let me, get a question in? I'm talking to Phil Wilson
for about 20 minutes.
Holy jeez.
Because he went through the Cowboys, the Bills.
Yeah, that was Swift, eh?
Oh, that was Swift. Hey. It's like I could have gone for dinner at the bar here at the bottom line, the great bottom line.
You're kicking me under the table.
I was worried. I was going to have to give you some electrician's tape.
Hold on. But at the end of the day, you're a seasoned veteran. You know me, man. I've been around the block.
Yeah.
You're a seasoned veteran, but you know what? So I think at the end of the day, man, segment 1, the Greek was just a little bit too good, a little bit swift. I know you've been used to guys like Roger Lajoie and all these guys, but you're hanging with the real deal. And as you heard Mr. Wilson, you know what he said. You heard him. That's a great question, Greek.
Right.
Holy jeez, that's a good one. You know what, Norm? That's what I'm here to do. I told you, man, when I came on here, that I'm going to resuscitate your fledgling career, man. And once again, I did it for a day.
So in other words, my questions were great or greater. Because
all right.
You taught me all these great questions to ask, right, Bill?
Wow, man. You know what? It was a real blast. It was
He's a great guest, though.
Absolutely. And a gentleman, you know what sometimes the only challenging thing is when you have an hour of time, there's so many things to talk about, and Mr. Wilson, if you're still watching there, I never want to cut you. Kid, Han, we're live on air here, kid. Let's have a little decorum. Take it easy. The big soiree over here at the bottom line.
It's always busy.
It's a big soiree.
Yeah.
So,
folks, you should come down. It's busy because they got great food.
This hour podcast turned into an hour and 11 minutes. First time.
Yeah, thanks to Jordan, our producer.
Yeah,
Jordan rules.
And before we go, once again, man, thanks to everybody involved. This program will always be brought to you by the Central Ontario Standardbred Association.
Great people.
Enjoy this week's COSA Classic, and we'll see you next week live at the bottom line.
Thanks, folks.
4 to
God
5
bless.
p.m.
Thank you so much. We love you.
One of the greatest trophies in the sport of harness racing, the Meadowlands Pace, our signature event at the Big M, 1.1 million on the line, and the gate is moving. A field of 9, 3-year-old pacers at the post. They're all in behind the gate, and here they come for the start of the Meadowlands Pace. And they're off. Mucho Sleazy is under urging from Dave Miller from mid-pack. Some beach somewhere looking to protect position. Floats away there. Artificial to his outside. Bullville Powerful is 4 wide on the opening turn as Share the Delight shoots through. He's now racing in 3rd. Sand Shooter gets away in 6th. Racing in 7th. Badlands Nitro. Atokia second last. Tis a Masterpiece. The trailer. Mucho Sleazy in front. Artificial up on the outside to challenge. Bullville Powerful is following him. The quarter in 26 seconds flat. And Some Beach Somewhere is tracking the cover of Bullville Powerful. He's second over on the outside, and they're rolling pretty good as Artificial takes the lead. But up on the outside, Bullville Powerful coming to call. He pokes ahead in front, and here comes the big horse, Some Beach Somewhere. He's 3 wide on the backstretch for Paul McDonnell. Mucho Sleazy is racing in 4th. Share the Delight 5 lengths further back 5th. 51 and 4. Amazing half here, and 3 wide, Some Beach Somewhere. He powers up now to take the lead as they move on to the far turn. Artificial is stretching him out and now back in 2nd. Mucho Sleazy racing in 3rd. Bullville Powerful drops back on the outside. Share the Delight is 4th at the rail. Sand Shooter is racing in 6th. Then it's Badlands Nitro. Some Beach Somewhere was used very hard. He's under a hand drive. McDonnell shakes the lines at him. Artificial sticking right with him. 1:19 and 1. Some Beach Somewhere leads it by 2. Artificial tips to the outside, trying to get to him. An 1/8 of a mile away. Some Beach Somewhere under pressure. Artificial up to his wheel on the outside. Some Beach Somewhere full out. Artificial, a desperate lunge on the outside. Artificial, Some Beach Somewhere at the line. Artificial, 1:47. World record upset in the pace. Tip to the outside, trying to get to him. An 1/8 of a mile away. Some Beach Somewhere under pressure. Artificial up to his wheel on the outside. Some Beach Somewhere full out. Artificial, a desperate lunge on the outside. Artificial, Some Beach Somewhere at the line. Artificial, 1:47. World record upset in the pace. .147 flat, fastest mile ever. 1:47 flat, fastest mile by a 3-year-old pacer, only 1/5 of a second from Holborn Hanover's all-age world record race mile. And number 6, Artificial from the first crop of Art Major out of the Falcon Sealster mare. Naughty Shady Lady has won it. Bred in Ontario and California by the Glengate Farms and Fred Bruner. Owned by the Jess Sawgrass Farms of Lockport, Illinois. Michigan native Joe Seekman wins with his 2nd pace starter. And Hall of Famer Ron Pierce gets Artificial up in time to slay the dragon. Some Beach, some. And in the winner's circle, make the trophy presentation. Mr. Dennis Robinson, the president and CEO of the New Jersey Sports and Exposition Authority, along with the chairman of the NJSEA and a big racing fan, Carl Goldberg. Making presentation to the Jess, trainer Joe Siekman, the winning connections of Artificial, the fastest 3-year-old in the history of our sport in 1:47. Ron Pierce holds aloft one of the greatest trophies in the sport, the Meadowlands Pace. He, Joe Siekman, and Jim Jask with Artificial, world record performance.
Now you know the name KOSA TV, an industry leader producing unique, high-quality digital content promoting harness racing in Ontario. Features, virtual programming, live events, and more. KOSA TV has it covered. Follow our social media channels and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page to view the latest content. And if you're looking to bet your favorite Ontario track, check out hpibet.com. KOSA TV, taking Ontario racing global.